you all to another section of our class for this course. This is the 5th module for the course website design and development. We have 5 more videos like this to go, so which implies that this is the 5th video for this course as well. However, we have the topic that we'll be treating in this module is the step-by-step guide to designing and building a website. So in this module, we'll be taking ourselves through the journey or through the process of designing and building a website step by step, what to do one after the other to achieve that. So this module can be said to be the module from planning to launch and beyond, and the contents of the module. So in this module, learners will study the following concepts, or should I say subtopics. So at the end of this module, learners will be able to plan goals, audience, and content structure. Learners will also learn wireframing and prototyping in this module, and also learners will also learn about website layouts and page design. Fourthly, learners will also learn about development and integration of features. Then lastly, in this module, learners will study or learn about testing, launching, and maintenance, where we'll be mainly discussing how you can test, launch, and maintain a website generally. So now let's move on to the introduction for this module. When we are talking about designing and building a website, it is a work that is definitely different from any other field out there, because it is a structured process. It has to do with process that combines creativity, planning, and technical skills. It's not just a work that anybody can just jump on. So to design and build a website is a structured process combining creativity, planning, and technical skills. We should also know that websites are essential tools for communication. Yes, for business, education, and information sharing. These are the main function and purpose of websites that we should know. And also, we should also be able to know that the process begins with careful planning. That is the goals. You know your goals. The audience. You know your audience. Who is this website that you are trying to build? Who are your target audience? And the content structure. Then after that, wireframing and prototyping at the same time, they create visual blueprints. And finally, development, testing, launch, and continuous maintenance. These are the things that we say we'll be looking at or we'll be discussing in this module. So a systematic approach to this, it actually ensures websites are functional, user-friendly, and sustainable. So now let's move to we said we'll be taking it one after the other. Now planning. You have to know your goals, your audience, and content structure. So while planning is the most important foundation, apart from website designing and everything in this life that you want to succeed in requires proper planning. So just put it like that okay, this thing that I'm about to begin or commence, I can't just start it anyhow. It requires proper planning. So planning is very essential. It's very essential to success. So now why we are going to be looking at why planning is most important. It's the most important foundation in website development or website designing. So that we have one is that it determines the purpose. When you plan, you determine the purpose, the direction, and effectiveness of the entire project by setting a specific goals. So and also informational platform, e-commerce, service offering, educational content, etc. So well-defined goals guide every later stage. When you define your goal properly, it guides your every stage that you find yourself. And now let's talk about identifying the target audience. And in doing this, you have questions you ask yourself, like who is this website for? The website that you're about to build, who is it for? The needs, the preferences, the age. You consider all these things, all these features for your audience. Digital literacy. For instance, a site for teenagers is quite different from one for professionals. So there should be a way that This site that is designed, okay, this is for, these sites are for teenagers, this one is for a particular profession and all. So that by doing that, you are targeting your audience and you are knowing your audience to build your website. Now, when we talk about developing content structure, this has to do with designing main pages, the home, about, services, contacts, and you organize your sub pages and content hierarchy. It improves navigation, user experience, and SEO. So without proper planning, your website may lack structure, confuse user, or fail its purpose. Now let's move on to now wireframing and prototyping. What do we refer to as wireframing? It is a simple visual blueprint of a website. Just like we know what a blueprint is of a building. So this wireframing is a simple visual blueprint of a website. It shows placements of headers, menus, images, text, buttons, no colors, images, or detailed design. It focuses on structure and functionality. That's what wireframing really revolves around, and it actually helps designers and developers understand layouts before they start coding. So it's just like a blueprint of a website. I believe you know what blueprint is. Now let's move on to prototyping. On the other hand, this is an interactive realistic preview of website behavior. And this prototyping prototyping helps users to click buttons, navigate pages, interact with features. It also allows early identification of errors, design issues, and usability problems. It saves time and resources by catching problems before development. So wireframing is like your structure and layout. You can see that, while prototyping on the other hand is interactivity and user experience testing. I believe we can justify this to differentiate between these two now. Now let's move to information architecture, that is organizing content and navigation. Organizing content and navigation. The core website pages, we have the home page, you have about page, you have the service, you have the blog, and the contact page. The home page has to do with the entry point, the overview of purpose. The about page is all about the identity of the website, the mission, the vision, and the background. The services has to do, or products page is the detailed offerings. Then the blog or resource pages is the educational or informational content about the website or about the site. Now contact page, that's the forms, the email, phone, or map. Utility pages, privacy policy, terms and condition, login or sign up, or search results, and this is what utility pages are. Now site structure types. Now we have flat structure and we have deep structure. For the flat structure, it has mainly it do have few pages, minimal hierarchy, but the deep structure has multiple nested levels. When that is, it has to do with its examples are e-commerce platforms. So navigation systems, we have top navigation, sidebar, footer, drop down menus, and also good information architecture helps users find information quickly and easily. It brings about the simplicity in the website. Now let's move on to website layout patterns and page components. We have common layout patterns that we have the Z pattern, F pattern, grid, grid or card layout. We have the full width layout, and also the Z patterns. It actually guides the eye in zigzag motion. I believe you know what zigzag is. It's just for simple landing pages. F patterns, users scan left to right. For F pattern, users will definitely scan from the left to the right, top to bottom, for content heavy pages. Grid or card layout is used for e-commerce and portfolios, while full width layout is used for modern landing pages with strong visuals. Structural components of a standard web page. Now we have the header, which comprises of the logo, navigation menu, the search button, account features. They are often sticky. We have the hero, which or above the fold. It is the first visible section. It has to do with main message and CTA. We also have the main content area, call for information, organized with headings. We have the sidebar, this one could be optional. It's related, has to do with related links, filters, ads, and all. The footer, where we will find the contacts info, quick links, social icons, legal pages. We also have the interactive elements like pop-ups, modals, notification banners, chat widgets, and all. Now, you should know that consistent structure across pages actually improve usability and user confidence. Now, let's look at page specific structures. We have product or service page, where we have there will be product image or hero section, description and benefits, the features or specification, the pricing details. We should also have the customer reviews, strong CTA, that is buy now or contact, blog page structure, featured image, title and metadata, table of contents and all, which could be optional. We also, the page might also have main contents with headings and image, auto bio, e-commerce category page. You have the filters, products, grid layout, and so on and so forth. Now, let's move on to key design principles for structure. Talking about the principles for structure, we have the visual hierarchy. That is, it is important. This is an important element. Important element stand out through size. That is, the size determines how important an element is. So this is so this is one of the principles for structure, for key design structure. Visual hierarchy, that is, the important element stand out through the size, the color, and placement. It might be large, the font size, and might be in bold, so that it will catch the user's attention more, so that definitely you are trying to pass something across compared to other text. Key design, another principle for key design structure is consistency, that is uniform spacing, make sure your typography and components across all pages. Another principle is responsiveness, that is mobile first design that adapts to all screens. Accessibility is another one, proper headings, contrast ratios, and all. Performance optimization, we also have SEO structure, conversion focus. Now, the tools for layout design, we have Figma, Adobe XD, Sketch, Bootstrap, Tailwind, CSS Prima, and so on. Now, good design is invisible. Users should focus on content, not struggle with navigation. We should note this at the back of our mind. Now, let's move on to development and integration of features and overview. So, feature development can be referred to as building individual functionalities and connecting them into a fully working system. So, examples of common website features that we can use we are going to look at is examples are, we have user registration and login. This is very essential. Search functionality, the contact forms, the payment system for the e-commerce website, blog publishing system, the product filtering and sorting, chats or messaging, dashboard analysis. These are common website features that are very, very common when we are trying to develop a website. Your website should definitely have user registration and login, where your customers can search functionality, contact forms, and all. So these are very, very important features. So each feature is developed as a modular component, which implies that it can work independently before being connected to the main system. Now, modular design makes development faster, testing easier, and maintenance simpler. So let's move on to front end and back end features developments. We'll be talking about front end and back end. Now let's move on to developing. Front end and back end feature development. Now, the front end can be referred to or can be seen as the client side, that is what users see and interact with. You have the technologies that is being used: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Vue, Angular, and all. Examples for this, we have the interactive buttons, image sliders, form validation, dynamic content loading. We communicate with back end through APIs. Back end server side. Back end can be seen or regarded to as the server side. We have the client side. Now the back end is the server side, where we have the logic, the data processing, and storage. Technologies for this are, we have the Node.js, PHP, Python, Java, MongoDB, and so on. So API integration, which have as the bridge between the front end and back end. How does this work? It's as user action, front end sends API request, then the back end processes it and response returns. So now let's move on to feature integration process and principle. That is the step-by-step integration process. This is a step-by-step guide for integration process. One is planning. This is identifying required features, define user flow. The second one is component development. The third one is integration. The fourth one is testing. You test where you test unit test, that is the individual. Integration test, then the together. User acceptance test. Then the fifth one is deployment, that is upload to live server, monitor, then fix bugs. Now let's look at the key principles for feature development and integration. We have modularity, we have scalability, we have security. Modularity, whereby each features functions independently. You understand? Now the scalability, whereby the system handles growth in users and data. Security, it protects user data and also prevents attacks. Now performance optimization is also fast loading, minimal delays when it is being used. Maintainability and consistency. Now modern websites use of components based architecture, the React components. Now let's move to testing, launching and maintenance. These are three different phases in websites designing. The testing phase is where you identify and correct errors before public release. So we have the unit testing, that is in the check individual components. And we have the integration testing, where you ensure modules work together. We have the system testing, where you evaluate the complete system. Then the user acceptance testing, UAT, which is the real or simulated users test usability. Now launching phase or deployment phase, on the other hand, is a phase where you make websites available to users. And in doing this, you upload files to host server, configure domain names and databases. You set up security features, that's the SSS, like the SSS certificate. Perform final checks before going live. The maintenance phase, which is the third phase, is where is the continuous process after launch. You've launched now you try to maintain, and by doing this you bug fixes, that is, you resolve issues reported by users, updates and upgrades. You add new features, improve existing ones. Performance monitoring, you ensure efficiency under different loads. Security maintenance, you protect against vulnerabilities and threats. Content updates, keep information correct. Now in conclusion, the step-by-step process of designing and building a website includes the following, just like we have been able to achieve in the discussion of this module. It's planning, where we have the goals, audience, content structure that we have explained initially, and which is the foundation of success. We also have looked at wireframing and prototyping, which can be regarded to as the structure and interactivity testing before coding. The layout and page design also, which is the information architecture, navigation, consistent. I've also looked at development and integration. Then we looked at testing, the launching and maintenance field, which is there to ensure reliability, security and continuous improvement of the website. Now modern web development emphasizes modular architecture, usability, performance and accessibility by combining technical competence with thoughtful design. We also have these questions and discussion, where we'll be asking ourselves about 5 questions, like why is planning considered the most important stage in website development. I believe we should be able to